My Gavan and Melanine, and well met indeed. I'm Attica Galadurathan, and welcome to the second semi-final of the Tournament of the Swan. The tournament was hosted in order to celebrate the refounding of my Discord channel that goes along with my YouTube channel, the Order of the Swan. The link is in the description if you want to come and join us and play Age of Empires with us. This tournament was played back in October, November time of 2021, and this is the second semi-final. You've already seen the first semi-final where myself and Kaylin defeated McLeod and Cyan. Well, this time it's Chris and Arendil versus Timur and Upper Left Islander. So let's just meet our teams, starting on the left-hand side of the board, because the south seems more natural as a starting point for me. I don't know why. We have Chris, 7LN, playing as the Bohemians. Chris has been around on the Discord pretty much since the very beginning of time. He's a very nice chap, and he's playing this time as one of the newer civs, the Bohemians. The Bohemians are very good at slowly trudging forward. They get War Wagon, well, a better version of a War Wagon, your opinion may differ, that provides a wonderful, strong forward line, and then your troops can trudge up behind it. They are masters of slowly chipping away at an enemy while having almost impenetrable battle lines behind, or rather pushing into the enemy. Supporting him and playing in red is Arendil, this time as the Goths. Everyone knows the Goths, they spam infantry. Full stop. Next we have their enemies, Timur in blue and Upper in grey. Timur is playing as the Khmer, although I've heard people say that should be pronounced as Khmer. But however you want to say it, please do. The Khmer, of course, elephant heavy. If they can get their elephant war machine rolling, then pretty much nothing can stop them. They're a very popular pick in diplomacy games because of that exact reason. Their elephants are genuinely nigh on unstoppable, and it's very difficult to actually beat them. And he's allied this time to the Ethiopians. Ethiopians are an archer civ, but everyone knows that the Ethiopians' real tactic and best ability is their outrageous siege machines with torsion engines. They arguably have the best Mangonel and Onager line in the game. And the map today for the tournament setting is, I think it's called Amazon Tunnel if memory serves, but you can see what it is. Two clearings are joined together with a third and final clearing with very narrow choke points connecting the two. Timur is rushing to block off his with a palisade wall, and he's managed to do just that before Arendil or Chris can get up over into his side. Now, you'll be watching this saying, who the bloody hell are any of these people? Well, let me just break it down for you. Chris and Arendil, much like myself and Kaylin, are middle-tier players combined together to create a better. The sum is worth far more than the parts, if I may. Whereas on the other side, at this point in time, Upper is very much in the low tiers of the rankings, and Timur is one of the ones where if this was an actual tournament, the bookies would put money on him to win. He is one of the best players in the entire tournament. So it's one very, very good player, one newer player versus two good, solid, dependable players in the center. Now, Upper is much better than Cyan, though. So, last time you saw Cyan placing houses next to his town centre and not really affecting the game too much, Upper will actually have an effect. And now, if you join the Discord, some 6-7 months later, Upper is actually very good. So, one of those rare occurrences where the tournament has spurred someone on to go and create and learn and become better. Right, so it's all kicking off with the walling. Timur's walled himself in over there and sent a villager forward to then try and start walling them. And Arendil dropping a house down to just finish off his own wall there as well. Timur's and Upper's scouts have both made it in, so there's a little bit of a scout chase going on. Arendil is on his way to the feudal age, and so is Upper, whereas Timur and Chris aren't there yet, still in dark. Chris losing some of his villagers to the scouts, but then killing it with his own villagers. Whereas Timur's scout was killed off by the other scouts, and he is long gone. Oh no, Chris, sorry, is yellow. Chris, I don't know why, but I'm thinking Chris is red, and that's going to be a problem throughout the whole of this. But this battle map is very much a turtle, and then go with everything that you could possibly go with. And try and just overwhelm them with numbers and late game armies, which is very much what's happening here. Generally speaking, if you haven't seen tournament games like this before, if people delay going to the feudal age, it's because they are going to try and rush to castle age as quickly as possible. And that's exactly what Upper is going to do. He's on his way to castle age already, while now everyone has hit feudal. Barracks buildings coming down from Chris on the front line there. While Eärendil slowly makes his way through that wall. They need the centre. You don't necessarily need the centre. You have enough resources on your own side to fight for a very, very long time. But claiming the centre gives the relics, which is always helpful, and means that the enemy then has an even further journey to make to get to you. Timur doing everything he can to block them in, though. His one little villager working overtime to shut them in there. And everyone else now on their way to the castle age. Timur about to reach it. Archers now coming forward from the Bohemians with Chris, just attacking anything that they can attack. Eärendil dropping a barracks on the front line as well. Switching over to the other side, they haven't put any military up yet at all. Timur really just booming as fast as he can, desperate to get his Khmer advantage by getting up to the Imperial Age. So no real fighting, they're just carving their way through walls and the like at the moment. But suddenly it is all undone. That one little action there may well have just decided the entire game. The wall did not stretch all the way to the trees, and all of Timur's work here is completely undone. And Chris and Eärendil breach out into the middle. The only ones so far who actually have any military claims the middle for them. They kill off the villager that was building an estate, and they move out into that centre. Timur, immediately realising that they now need to play defensive, puts a stone wall up on his side, and they now wait. Chris and Eärendil move their forces in. Let's speed this up further because we're not watching anyone actually fight. They move troops out through the gap and start claiming the relics. No one does anything about the houses, interestingly, though. And Eärendil moves forward to put a castle up on the hill. Timur puts a castle on his side of the wall. That'll deny any of these troops being able to actually get through for a time. Chris uses his archers to just take down the houses because nothing else really happening is there, so why not? And they move forward to start mining the gold. Spearmen, of all things, for Eärendil, taking out houses there. And the Imperial Age is now upon us, so no real fighting before anyone really actually hit the Imperial Age, but it's all kicking off now. Upper defending as well, and he's going siege. And as is Timur, he's leaning into the Khmer's better Scorpions. Their unique tech allows Scorpions to fire 2 shots. But Scorpions versus Haufnitzer is going to be an interesting matchup. The Haufnitzer, of course, is the Bohemian unique, one of their unique units, and it is a better bombard cannon, giving them, in essence, the best bombard cannon in the entire game. So it now becomes, can the Ethiopian Siege's splash damage overcome the Bohemians' better damage, or rather better overall unit? So the bombard cannon, as you can see there, does 40 damage, 12 range, 80 HP. A Haufnitzer has 90 HP, 55 damage, and has 1 more pierce armor to boot. But they do have the same range. So the Turks still have the longest range bombard cannon in the game, if I'm not mistaken. But it's splash damage versus generally more damage. Who is going to win? And couple that with the Khmer's ability to just stay alive. It's going to be an interesting matchup. The Bohemian Castle looks very cool as well. That's one of the ones I really like. I don't like the Sicilian one, for example. I think the Sicilian one looks really rubbish, personally. But the Sicilian donjon looks good, so swings and roundabouts. The Goths are also, because we're now at the Imperial Age and the Haufnitz is killing its own Goths, but you're a Goth player. Who gives a damn? Kill your... I mean, if it means that you can move even an inch forward, the deaths of 100 people just does not matter. Welcome to the Goth mentality. So they are just going to pin them in. The Goth spam can now come forward. But of course, the best way to counter Goths, as Timur is doing, or not the best way, but one of a very good, tried and tested ways, is mass Scorpions. And Khmer get better Scorpions than most with their double projectiles, which you can see there. So as the Scorpion shoots, it shoots once and then it shoots again, causing a heap of projectiles to fly out of any one Scorpion. And despite the high pierce armor of the Huskarls, there's just too many projectiles coming at them. But they're Goths. The barracks is up. The factories are working. The Rhineland is being put to the task, and the armies are marching forward. All the while, Chris, ever the free thinker, leaving his military back at the start and just letting his troops walk across the entire map. He has, of course, built 2 archery ranges here, but otherwise the castle is all he has in this area. His Haufnitzers have come all the way from there, as you can see them walking forwards. But that's what we love about these games. Timur destroying his own walls to try and get the Haufnitzers, but Chris managing to keep them alive, and Chris and Eärendil working perfectly in tandem here, with the horde of Goths just blocking any attempt to get to the Haufnitzers. More cavalry come through. They do take a few down, but enough survive to then push back, and more of the enemy's forces are just going down. Timur switching into battle elephants, giving them real grief now. Haufnitzers moving forward, taking the castle down, protected as they are with the troops of the Goths. Upper Left Islanders, Shotel warriors trying to do anything, really, to reclaim a modicum of anything. Some pride, some dignity, forgotten. Shotel warriors are the game's almost ultimate glass cannons. They do insane damage, but they don't have very much health. But they do move very quickly. But 19 attack damage for an infantry unit is outrageous. Compare that with a Huskarl of 16. It's madness. Absolute madness. But 50 HP, and at the peak 3 melee armor. Huskarl, 2 melee armor, 70 HP. Huskarl's not really the one you want to compare it to. Champions, really, isn't it? The Champion's the baseline. Shouldn't compare unique units to other unique units, really, because they also have very different roles. But the fighting toing and fraying. Every time the blue and grey swarms come forward, they are quite easily beaten back by just the massed halberdiers and the Haufnitzers. And it's just more and more and more and more. They can't come out of their base. And all the while, Chris has now moved his production forward. The lands in the centre have been claimed. Trebuchet's moving forward from Eärendil as the Shotel warriors move in. But Shotel warriors countered quite nicely by the Bohemian hand cannoneers. Unfortunately, we haven't got any Bohemian... they're not called war wagons, are they? But I can't remember what their name is. Haven't got any out. Trade lines being set up at the back there. Markets are in position. Chris and Eärendil squeeze forward after a brief moment of victory, and they take down another castle. Yes! And Timur and Upper see the writing on the wall as Eärendil floods the Goths forward into that line. And it ends. First game goes to Chris and Eärendil, and I cannot tell you how absolutely ecstatic we were when we were watching this, because lots of people watched a lot of the tournament games live as spectators, and we were so thrilled. So game 1 goes to Chris and Eärendil, forcing... Well, there's always going to be a second game as a minimum, and let's see what happens in game number 2. Oh no, hang on, let's have a look at the stats first, even if brief. There's the totals: military and economy going to Chris, technology going to Eärendil, society to Upper, and total score to Chris. The Haufnitzers, 365 kills. It's outrageous. He only lost 73, but his army was small and elite, as opposed to Eärendil's 259 losses and 129. That's a Goth player for you. Timur collecting the most food and wood, but Upper taking stone, and Chris taking gold, interestingly, with a trade profit. There's the times, if anyone's interested in those. Research counts and map explore, but those aren't really that important. 4 castles for Upper, 2 for Eärendil, but no one really going into castles. A couple of captured relics. Relic gold at 2,000 for Chris, and then the timeline fairly straightforward because they resigned. So that's game 1. Now let's move on to game number 2. Welcome to the second game of the semi-final. Eärendil is still in red. Was he red last time? Yes, he was. And this time he's playing as the Teutons. Heavily defensive and excellent castles with a slow wall of death in Teutonic knights. Chris is playing as the Spanish, El Español. Kimi Orvera. Aquí. The Spanish, very good all-round civ, really. Conquistadors kind of shine a little bit. But overall, they're very much a analogy for Chris and Eärendil. A fantastic team that can threaten in all manners, but doesn't really excel in a specific way. Timur is playing as the Cumans, which he's played as a number of times throughout this tournament, because, as I say, a lot of the games were watched by a lot of us. This is not the tournament in its entirety, of course. I've only shown you my and Kaylin's progress to the end, because, let's be honest, you're mostly interested in my progress, because this is my channel. But do let me know if you want to see others. I mean, no, I'm not going to say that because it's already been a hassle to get Age of Empires to record these. Anyway, Tim are playing as the Cumans and Upper as the Koreans. Now, the Cumans are a very, very early aggressive civ. They get excellent aggression in the feudal age, so it'd be interesting to see how that works. Now, this is Timur and Upper's home map, and they have chosen arena, as you can see. Everyone gets a wall. So, can the slow and defensive Teutonic and Spanish forces defeat the fast, agile aggression of the Cumans, coupled with the ranged and siege advantages of the Koreans? That's everyone's question today. And we will have to just wait and see. Timur already on his way to feudal age. 8 minutes of... ridiculous. He wants to get to feudal age as quickly as possible because, of course, the Cumans get a second town centre in the feudal age, unlike any other nation. They can also build siege workshops in the feudal age, but not many people take advantage of that. Chris and Eärendil's main strength comes, if they can, in holding castles and the like, building defences and staying by them. Timur preparing defences. If you need to build houses, you might as well build them along the walls. Chris mining a lot of stone, suggesting he's going to try and castle drop someone. He's scouting out as well at the moment. But otherwise, everyone just booming up. Timur really booming up. As many villagers onto farms as humanly possible. It's outrageous how many farms he's got going up. The others are all now in the castle age. So that's the only disadvantage of the early town centre, is it sets you back. But then that's why arenas work so well for the Cumans, because Cumans don't actually get stone walls. So arenas gives them something they don't get, which is it's a bit broken, really, isn't it? They are not being played in the way that they are meant to be played. Eärendil starts sending out some knights to try and use his early castle age advantage. He's already built a stables and he's moving that forward. And Chris does build a castle, but builds it in his own base. Interesting defensive tactic. All the while, Timur is just resting behind his walls and dropping down 4 stables. There's a reason why he's going this heavily into farms. Chris's conquistadors trying to harass Upper, but not really anything that they can actually do to harass. And Upper then gets out some war wagons. Timur then hits the castle age and immediately has knights out in just outrageous number of knights. Straight away. That is just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So the walls give him the ability to do that. If he didn't have the stone walls, he would never be able to boom this much. Well, I mean, he would if the enemy doesn't attack him. But if you know you're up against a Cuman player not in arenas, you can't let them do what he's just done. You can't let them use their town centre to gain the advantage. But Chris and Eärendil have. Also, Upper this time has managed to get some war wagons and push Chris back, and has sent some villagers forward with his stone. Timur now right outside Eärendil's base. Eärendil dropping a defensive castle of his own, which will keep the knights at bay for a while. But what can he do against the siege? And Chris has not noticed Upper's little force moving away to that left-hand side, although he probably has noticed it now, but he realises there's nothing that he can do about it anyway. And Upper moves the war wagons forward, trying to position the villagers into the best place to presumably drop a castle. But the conquistadors were going over to help Eärendil, but they've pulled back, and Upper's putting his castle down there, just out of range of Chris's castle. So, the armies standing, facing one another. More knights get sent into Timur's little knight horde, as Eärendil then swaps into spearmen to try and counter the sheer number of knights outside his doors, and more knights being trained back at home for the Cumans. He's built a secondary wall as well to save that town centre should his wall fall. Always thinking ahead. As Upper's castle goes up. So Chris now has to deal with Upper, and Eärendil is left alone to deal with Timur. And Timur comes and knocks down that gate. Makes very, very short work of it. And the Rams move in. Now the pikemen move to counter the knights. Now pikemen, of course, do counter knights quite nicely. And that is a good little matchup. But can the pikemen do enough? Because, of course, knights do a lot of damage back to pikemen. So it's who can kill whom first. That's very much the question on our mind at the moment. As more rams coming in behind for Timur. More support getting brought in there. He's got to bring that castle down, and that's his main aim. As Eärendil does manage to push him back and get some Teutonic Knights down as well. Chris has managed to hold off Upper's attack, and with no one in the Imperial Age... no trebuchets are going to be out here knocking on anyone's doors just yet. But Earendel's forces are pushed back, and he sends more out to meet them. The pikemen succeeded, but then Timur was resting on a horde of knights again, and trying to keep up that pressure and maintain the assault. He moves forward. The rams make very short work of the palisade wall, and in go the knights again, and this time there are no pikemen to stop them. More knights coming forward from Timur. Chris sends his conquistadors over to try and assist, because Eärendil is now really under the cosh. Teutonic Knights, though, just staying alive forever and a day. Outrageously defensive unit. The Knights abandon the castle and try and push through into the town, but they are blocked off. And they don't want to go too far forward because the castle and things will get them. As the conquistadors then start assisting, Timur pulls back to try and meet them. But the castle falls. They're not quick enough to defend against the castle. Upper not using the advantage that he has at the moment and just massing war wagons, just staying as it is, because he's on his way to the Imperial Age, and Upper is going to get there first, giving him the trebuchets. With the castle down, Timur floods into Eärendil's base, and Eärendil starts dropping further defensive buildings. And then the knights hit into the farms. The conquistadors come back to help, but it's a little bit too late. The battering rams taking down the town centre. Only another one hit, and the town centre's gone. Now, Eärendil does have a second one there, but the knights now have free reign. There aren't enough pikes in here. There's another town centre over there. Upper does get a trebuchet out, and the war wagons start hitting Chris. But Chris's conquistadors are still helping Eärendil at the moment. They're still keeping him just about alive. Another town centre falls. And the knights trying to take down a few more villagers before they get brought down. The conquistadors taking down the rams. That's taking such a long time. Eärendil drops another castle as he gets some pikes out to deal with the knights. And he manages to hold on. Chris's conquistadors keeping him alive. But of course, Chris's conquistadores really would like to be at home where the enemy is trebucheting him. He uses his villagers to try and repair the castle as it's being taken down. But another trebuchet is added to the mix, and the back castle's now being hit as well. The town centre's gone down. Timur then sends his knights over to help Upper, because Eärendil has been very hit back. Look at the scores. Timur has nearly twice Eärendil's score. He's been bullying him all game. But Chris's conquistadores come over, and they are getting there just in time, but they are up against now a horde of war wagons. And they take a lot of losses before they even shoot anyone. But they manage to take Timur's knights out of the equation. But the castle's gone, the second castle's gone, and then now the town centre obviously went earlier. As Eärendil floods his pikes over to try and assist, as he's now got a castle up and built another wall in his base. So he sends pikemen over to help. But Chris is now very much up against it. He does still have two other town centres, but no other castles. And war wagons will make short work of pikes. And Timur hits the Imperial Age. Now, Chris is on his way to the Imperial Age, but now they really are in a sore spot, as they are both in castle for Eärendil and Chris. Their enemy in Imperial, and Timur has now free reign to move his villagers forward up to the wall. He's sending light cavalry over to help. They're just trying to flood at least one of the enemies out of the game. And the light cav goes in to try and raid. He pulls the war wagons back to draw away the pikes under the fire of the castle. And Timur drops a castle of his own outside of Eärendil's walls. Chris hits the Imperial Age, and they manage to hold on still further. But Upper's war wagon and Treb grouping is going to be difficult to bring down. As Timur then launches another assault, siege rams move in on Eärendil, trying to capitalize on the confusion between the two. Upper brings his forces forward as well, takes out an archery range, as the war wagons then move in to start hitting the skirmishers, hitting where they can, doing whatever they're able to do to try and stop Upper moving through. Timur just testing the defense of Eärendil, but he gets the trebuchet up. Eärendil is now on his way to the Imperial Age. He's repairing his castle desperately, but Timur is right there. He's in his base. Eärendil realizes and has to pull back the pikes. Obviously, he realized a while ago, but he's decided the pikes need to go back. Chris has to stand alone. Trebuchet still taking down the castle as the Rams move in now as well. It looks like he's run out of stone as the castle falls. And now the Kipchaks. Kipchaks versus Pikes is a terrible, terrible matchup for the latter, because the Kipchaks' mobility and high burst damage means that they will shred through pikemen any day of the week. They are like horse archers on steroids. And they shred down those pikes as expected. Eärendil in a very bad way as Upper then floods into the gap here. But he is up against a horde of skirmishers, and skirmishers do counter war wagons, so it's not a good matchup for Upper. Are there enough skirmishers, though? That's very much the question. But the siege now moving in, and of course, skirmishers only do 1 damage against capped rams, so they are not going to take those down anytime soon. As Timur then really does flood into Eärendil's base. It seems very much like the writing is on the wall, but Eärendil orders the exodus of his people. His commander gives the clear ringing sound of the retreating horn. And as many villagers as can flee. But then Chris and Eärendil realise it is done. And the game goes to an end. Now, the only point of feedback I have quite clearly on this one, because we discussed it at length when we were watching it, is if Chris had built his castle outside of Timur's walls instead of in his own base, the general consensus was that they would have won. Because Timur needed to use those knights in order to reign supreme, and without the knight supremacy he can't really leave his base, and a castle would have denied him that. So the general theory is that if Chris had been aggressive with his castle, even if he'd just gone against Upper or Timur, it doesn't matter either one, Timur would have been better, but if he'd been aggressive with his castle, then the general feeling was they would have won that. But because they allowed Timur to boom up to the Industrial Age as he did, Imperial Age, well, rather the Castle Age as quickly as he could, and then the knights that he flooded out, it rather sealed their fate. Statistics-wise, Timur top on everything. 256 kills, almost nowhere close to that. Eärendil lost 237. And economy just a blitz down the line for Timur. There's the tech. 9 minutes and 30 seconds he hit the Feudal Age. There's all the castles and the relics and the timeline. Eärendil getting defeated at the end there, calling an end to it. So it's forced into 3 rounds then. So for the final, we're going to Hideout. Who is going to win? Place your bets and stand ready. Welcome to the final round of semi-final number 2. And it is, as I say, Hideout. The way the tournament worked, as I've said before, everyone got a home map. That home map could change round to round. But everyone got their own choice. So you play one team's choice, then you play the other team's choice, and then you play a third independent choice, which in this case was Hideout, chosen at the very start of the tournament. Hideout sucks balls, if you'll pardon my rather colloquial parlance. I dislike it immensely. The mental feeling that you're safe because of the palisade walls is a lie, and you can't rely on that at all. But anyway, let's have a look at everyone this time. So Eärendil is once again in red. He's playing as the Lithuanians this time. Solid cavalry civ, but they need them relics. So he needs to rely on getting relics. Chris, away to the north, is the Saracens, one of his favoured nations. Saracens are an interesting one, really. They do a wide variety of things. One of the most common things you'll see with Saracens are foot archers and then Mamelukes. Mamelukes are widely considered one of the best units that the game has. Very difficult to counter. Ranged melee units. So we'll see how they do. Timur this time is playing as the Britons. Obviously a major archery civ. I myself am a Briton, and I can attest that we do love our archery. I myself am actually pretty good at archery, if I do say so myself. You never know when you need to be called to honour when those damn pesky frogs try and cross the channel. What? So keeping up with the bone, you know. Anyway, Upper's playing as Saracens as well, and he's down on the southern front in grey. So the teams are aligned. Everyone at the moment just doing the starting things, gathering sheep, Timur hoarding in herdables. And it's Chris against Timur this time and Eärendil against Upper, but we'll see how they actually play it in practice. But at the moment we'll just skip through the Dark Age at full speed because it's just the standard economy gathering. People going down onto the wood, getting as much food as they possibly can, all the standard classic things that you normally see. And scouting one another out as well, that's what we've got there. But we're now onto the feudal, so everyone but Timur is on their way up, and Timur's just gone up as well. Or just going up, sorry. Right, Chris moving out with a 3. He's moving in with one of his sort of signature moves, if you will. This worked wonders earlier in the tournament for him, which again is a game you've not seen. But he's gone early aggression and sent 3 militia in, upgraded them to man-at-arms on the way, and is hoping to use that really early aggression to tip the scale in his favour. Eärendil just sort of booming his way up. So let's see how the men-at-arms do. They move in to try and bring down the palisade, and Timur immediately reacts with a house on that palisade border. So they move on to the next palisade, which is natural, and they try and take that down. And Timur drops another house. All the while, Timur focusing on his own game plan, whilst Chris is having to split his attention between his base and the enemy. Timur builds another house, where they then try and put another palisade wall down. And then they start breaking through in the north there. Timur is now on his way to the castle age. Eärendil sent some scouts up to try and assist. Lithuanian scouts is not uncommon to see an attack of that nature this early doors. He sent his scouts forward to try and assist, and they are off on a run through as well. But Chris still hasn't actually gotten through the wall yet. The palisade up there broke, but they built a house. Then they're building another one behind that one. And all the while getting archers out. And you know what counters man-at-arms? Archers. Eärendil's scout cav arrives as Timur's first archer starts bringing down the men-at-arms. More archers are added to the mix, and we're now up at 5 as Eärendil tries to desperately to hit somewhere where the villagers aren't. Chris's men-at-arms now just standing by as Timur is the first to hit the castle age. Now, can he make Chris pay for that early aggression? Upper, who nobody has been paying any attention to, has managed to get 10 archers of his own out, and he's on his way to meet Eärendil, as Eärendil's scout cav are denied by another house placement by Timur. Chris sending his own archers in to try and counter, but of course Briton archers have more range than normal archers, and he's upgraded them to crossbows now, so the attack has not done anything. Chris's army running completely away. I'm not really sure where they're going. As Timur moves in to enact his revenge. Upper moving forward as well. Everyone in feudal except Timur. The early aggression of Chris and Eärendil has cost them an age up time, and the crossbowman of the Britons moves in. And with the benefit of, I believe that's the Saracen bonus still at this point in time, that their archers do more damage versus buildings. So the Briton archers, well, they both have that. So everyone's archers do more damage against buildings here, which is how Upper is also able to get his forces in, and he hits Eärendil with his horde of archers. Timur's crossbows then have free reign inside of Chris's base, and with some micro, he kills Chris's archers and moves in to start taking down villagers, as Eärendil's lumber is now being targeted by Upper's archers. Chris and Eärendil now on their way to the castle age. As Eärendil's scouts start dealing with the archers back in his base, but not before he loses a lot of villagers. Timur now just streaming crossbowmen in with the horde that he already has in there. Chris's villagers are penned in, and the final blow. Briton crossbowmen outrange feudal age town centres. Would you believe? They have an 8 range, and the town centre currently has a 6 range. And with their damage bonus against buildings, they are going to take that town centre down. And with Chris not being able to get any of his villagers out, once again, even though we are only 20 in-game minutes in, which is whatever that is, 17. I always want to say 17, but I don't think it is. 13 minutes maybe of real life time. The writing seems to be rather on the wall. As Chris tries to abandon his base, his villagers start to flee. But look at the number of crossbowmen that Timur has. Oh, it's just outrageous. People with battle plans like this that just know what they're doing. You just feel so... I feel Chris's pain. I can feel his pain through the screen, despite watching this back some 6 to 7 months after it actually happened. I can feel it. It cries within my soul. Eärendil was able to kill the archers that Upper sent, and Upper is now on his way to the castle age, but he's got some more archers back in his base. As Timur flushes Chris out of his starting base completely. And he arrives to then target Eärendil. His huge archer horde moves through. Upper hits the castle age and sends his archers back in, and that distracts Eärendil, while Eärendil's town centre then falls to the crossbowmen in the same way that Chris's did earlier. They outrange it. So now Chris, desperate to build a town centre. He got his up there, but it's very much in the firing line. Upper's archers now arrive as well, and it's just a case of can the archers take them all down? And yes, they can. But did you see how many died at the end? That was a good little hit from that mangonel before it went down. And there you have it. Timur and Upper move through to the final, and Chris and Eärendil are defeated. In terms of reviewing on this gameplay, this time, of course, it speaks for itself. If Chris had just stayed in his base and boomed as well, he might have had a better defense against Timur's archer horde. If Eärendil had gone for Upper, he probably would have taken Upper out of the game, because the archers don't counter the cavalry. They don't counter it at all. And Upper's entire strategy was archer-focused. So if Eärendil had not gone to help Chris, and Chris had just boomed and then maybe defended, they could have taken Upper out and then tried to double team Timur. But as it stood, the early aggression cost Chris time economically, which Timur was able to just defend by building houses, and then was able to get himself up to the castle age where his crossbowmen then were then just completely outmatching anything the others could send at him. And it cost them the game. Timur taking the top spot along the bottom again. Militarily taking everything, largest army, units killed. Economy, Upper got the most this time, actually, interestingly. Hardly any food collected, as you can see, because he went into archers. As their age up times didn't even hit the Imperial this time. Societal, 45 villagers for Upper. And then time 9-wise, there you go. Chris really dwindling away. And so there you have it. Timur and Upper continue, and Chris and Eärendil say goodbye. So stay tuned. Ideally on Sunday. That means nothing if you're watching in the future. Very soon, within the next week, will be the final between Timur, Upper Left Islander, and myself and Kaelin. Stay tuned if you're interested. But for now, thank you very much for watching, and until we speak again, Nevair Neden Pedamad Melonin, and farewell.